Hi guys, how we doing? Richie of the Jordan Patrick Show. Uh these officials are awful. I could talk about a lot of stuff that goes on in the regular season and irregularities with officiating throughout the regular season of the NFL, but this is the playoffs. And yesterday the Raiders played the Bengals, and I want to make one thing clear so I don't come off as a guy who's just complaining about the refs. The Bengals outplayed the Raiders yesterday, and the 49ers outplayed the Cowboys tonight. I want to make that clear. But one thing I got to say, watching both these games, is that a couple of horrendous calls, things that should never happen in a game that's important, are essentially the difference. In the Bengals-Raiders game yesterday, it was ridiculous to see a ball in midair thrown by Joe Burrow as he was going out of bounds. And it appeared that there was a whistle. And then what appeared to be a whistle was actually a real whistle. It wasn't something from the crowd. Point I'm making is plays in midair. The Raider defenders gave up on the play, given that they thought it was a whistle by the officials, which it was. Ball gets caught. It's counted a touchdown. Gene Skeletor from the New York studio, who was giving his 2 cents about overseeing these kind of calls, flat out said it's a non-reviewable play because of the fact that the referees inadvertently blew a whistle. Therefore, the play should have never counted. Raiders lost by 7. While I don't think the Raiders deserve to win, that's neither here nor there. The better team won yesterday, but in a playoff game, that is not a good look for your officiating crew. Now, we fast forward to today, 49ers picking up, I guess you could say, a controversial win in Dallas. 49ers completely outplayed the Cowboys today. Want to make that clear. They completely outplayed them for the better part of the first 3 quarters. The 49ers kept Dallas in the game. Dallas had an opportunity to win. There were a couple of calls that really blew my mind. One was earlier in the game where a referee impeded Dallas's ability to snap the ball. He literally was hanging over the center. That was earlier in the game, which followed a play where Dallas converted a fake punt. Now, my thing is, if the officials can't get everything calmed down, that's where you're supposed to take an official timeout. Because based on when the referees finally got involved in the play, it seemed like Dallas only had like 3 seconds to snap the ball. They got to delay a game. It was pretty comical. Late in the game, the Cowboys were hit with 2 very rare penalties. Defensive holding on plays that were running plays. Now, I can understand in pass routes that you may see that on passing downs, passing plays. But on 2 running plays, which are very bang-bang, I thought it was very strange that was called. And by no means am I heartbroken that the Cowboys lost or if the 49ers would have lost, because on my last podcast, I made this very clear that I don't have much love for either organization. But what I do have an affection for is good officiating in these games that really matter. Final play of the ball game, Dak Prescott, which I'm assuming to get closer to having a chance at a 50-50 ball in the end zone on the final play, ran a QB sneak. Now, I understand that when you're resetting and trying to, spike the ball to stop the game in the waning seconds of the ball game, it's not the easiest thing to do. And Tony Romo, who was on the telecast, pointed out that the referee does have to touch the ball, make sure everything's lined up right before you snap it. I understand that too. But what I do not understand is why the referee, number one, was 40 yards away from where the ball was being lined up. And number two, ran into Dak Prescott. Because if he doesn't run into Dak Prescott, I do believe that the Cowboys, at minimum, would have had 1 second to play with. Do I think that that would have been the difference in winning and losing? I'm not sure. But I think as a viewer, you want to see what would have happened, especially when you feel that it was negligence on the officials' part. I'll make it clear, the 49ers today were a better team than the Dallas Cowboys, and that's why they advanced. Cincinnati Bengals were a better team than the Las Vegas Raiders yesterday, and that's why they advanced. But what I'm getting on here more than anything else, there has to be a better system with the way that these officials, in my opinion, are just swaying games a little too frequently. Most people that play football will tell you that there is literally holding on damn near every play. Having said that, I have a hard time understanding how for the majority of a game where both teams are doing the same stuff, one team has 11, 12, 13 penalties to another team's 3. And I noticed as the game went along, and I was even saying this to our co-host Elliot, that I felt like the Cowboys were going to start getting some of the calls, being that the 49ers had such an advantage in getting more calls. It's not a good look because sometimes I feel that the officials just become too much of an outcome. And you don't want to see that. And you want to see more consistency and regularity with the way they're calling certain calls. If a defensive holding is super emphasized in the final 2 minutes of a fourth quarter, I want to see that same play in the second quarter. It shouldn't matter when you do it if the penalty is the penalty. And this has been an ongoing thing for many years in the NFL and other sports as well, in the NBA. But officiating has gotten to a point in the NFL where, I do think it's diluting the product. And speaking of diluting the product, I know that some people, myself included, were rather excited hearing about the extra playoff game, the extra playoff seed. For years, in addition to running on a 16-game schedule, the NFL also ran on 12 teams making the playoffs, 6 from each conference, as opposed to right now, there being an extra seed, which was the 7 in each conference. An AFC and NFC team would be 7th. In this case, it was the 2 PA teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, there's not enough data to prove if this is almost like a wasted playoff berth. But the way I see it is, in addition to getting rid of a bye for the second best regular season team in each conference, I almost feel like you're basically setting up the 7th seed as like an appetizer for a team that's an elite team. And, normally with expansion, it only goes further from here, which would lead me to believe that, like the NBA having 8 teams in each conference, 1 through 8, and the NBA has had their playing games now that they've added to that thing that started during the bubble and the pandemic. I do think that when you sometimes expand the playoffs so far, it kind of dilutes the quality of teams that you're getting in there. Whereas a couple of lucky tiebreakers, things of that nature, could affect things. I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head and shoulders better than the Philadelphia Eagles. That score was 31-15, and not even as close as it really appeared. But truth be told, a New Orleans Saints team may have very well given the Tampa Bay Bucs a different game, a tougher game. That didn't happen. But the point I'm making is, when you have a team that made the playoffs that didn't defeat anybody that's in the playoff field, I would have to say it's rather easy to say that they probably don't deserve to be there. In the Philadelphia Eagles case, I strongly feel that that is true. Pittsburgh Steelers needed a lot of things to happen to get in. One required the worst team in the NFL to beat the Indianapolis Colts, which did happen. Um, I just think the point here, and more data will prove this to be true, or if I'm out of my mind, or if I'm just having a knee jerk reaction to what I saw in this round. But I will say this: the Pittsburgh Steelers are competing with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and I'm actually going to get in and watch some of this in a short while. Ooh, I take that back. I don't know what just happened here, but it is at halftime. Chiefs have a comfortable 14-point lead. Um, that's all I got. I want the officiating to be much better. And I want the NFL to kind of pump the brakes on how many more teams in terms of expansion they're doing, because you don't want to dilute the game. There's already an outcry of a lot of people that feel that the rules are kind of flaky in terms of the disadvantages of playing defense. Even the great Tom Brady has mentioned that. And believe me, my heart is not bleeding for the Dallas Cowboys today. I'm a diehard, thorough New York Giants fan. But having said that, when you don't have an emotional attachment to either team playing, it's rather easy to notice a lot of things that do occur. And I guess what I'm saying all around the board is I just want to see more consistency from these refs. That's all I got. If you're watching the Chiefs Steelers game, enjoy it. I'm going to get in there and watch the second half of this. But the San Francisco 49ers, only 2 years removed from winning the NFC, are a game away from going to the title game. Whether they end up in Green Bay or in Tampa will be determined by tomorrow's outcome with the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. That's all. Have a good night.